helps it stay away from manipulation and stuff like that. All right, why does this matter? On a global scale, basically this is the first time in our species' history that we have a system of transactions where we can record stuff across the entire planet outside of a single person's control, right, to record our transactions. And that's where you get stuff like cryptocurrencies, and you get stuff like NFTs, DeFi, and stuff like that. Some of you guys may not even know what some of that stuff is, and that's perfect. All right, raise your hand if you're a part of a company. Maybe you own one, maybe you work for one. Okay, raise your hand if you're part of a community. That's literally like every hand raised. Cool. All right, so what you should care is that the future of companies are communities, okay? And that's where we get into the concept of Web3, and I'm gonna explain what that is. So Web 1 is kind of like that late 1990s, early 2000s internet, right? Where you go on like blogs. There's no real interactivity, you just kind of read stuff, all right? Web 2 is where you get like your blogs, MySpace, you know what I'm saying, Facebook. You know, most people here, it looks like they're in the age group where they can remember those things that are first coming around. All right, the problem is with Web 2 is that how do social media companies make money?
Marketing?
Right, advertising by collecting our data, right? So the product is free, and if the product is free, you are the product, essentially. So there's no real ownership in the Web 2 world. So if you guys have heard this buzzword that's been thrown around called Web 3, it's basically taking the concepts of ownership from the world of Web 1 and bringing it with the same kind of interactive tools that Web 2 provided, okay? Why does this matter? Well, A, ownership of your data and your identity matters. The things you create and your intellectual property matters. What the world of Web 3 makes more accessible is for you to have more ownership in your intellectual property and your thoughts and ideas that weren't possible in Web 2. All right, so you're still asking me, what does this have to do with sustainable living? Okay, how many of you guys own a company? Raise your hand. Cool, a lot of people, that's awesome. How many of you guys have your company listed on the New York Stock Exchange? Right, probably because it's super difficult, and the only way to really do that is you have to go through a whole bunch of different rounds of funding. You have to get accredited investors. Accredited investors basically means that there's somebody that has like 25K or more in the stock market. All right, how many people do you know have 25K or more in the stock market? Maybe not a lot. How many people do you know that have like $25? Okay, a lot more people, right? So what the world of Web 3 and all of this crypto stuff and all these buzzwords that you're hearing thrown around, like you can make your own token or your own cryptocurrency or your own NFT, is essentially you're able to provide ownership into your company or your community, because again, the future of companies are communities, through DeFi. So you could literally set up your own token. So we're gonna take Elise, for example, who talked about trash clothes. So one of the projects that we're working on in our community that I'm a part of called the Neovanguard is that we pretty much help people integrate these technologies into their brand. So Elise makes really cool, sustainable, upcycled clothing. Okay? If you purchase one of Elise clothing, you get an NFT. Why should you care about that? So what the NFT grants you access to is free repairs of that clothing over a certain amount of time, right? It's just basically a certificate of ownership. And it says, hey, I have an investment in your brand. Now imagine if that brand scales at an even greater rate and there's more people who are able to do more repairs and stuff like that, the value of that NFT increases, right? So that's why you may hear it be called like a digital asset, because the value of what you're holding increases as the value of your brand increases. So ultimately what you're doing is with stocks, right, in the big AAA company world, is that you're essentially buying ownership into a company. With decentralized finance and stuff like that, you're able to set up avenues of ownership into your company, into your project, whatever you have doing, at an early stage, right? And so say you maybe don't have the capital to pay people, you know, like a living salary, but what you can do is pay people in your own cryptocurrency or your own tokens or your own NFTs or whatever, right? And that is incentivizing people to invest their time and energy and effort into something that is ultimately going to grow in value and that they can hold a financial asset that grows over time. But even outside of looking at it through the lens of being a financial asset, say you're an artist. So Shai's an artist in multiple domains. She's a music artist and she's a physical artist or a visual artist. So she sells her paintings as NFTs. And if you buy one of her paintings and you get the NFT to that painting, you get access to her shows, right? because you've invested in her in some way as a community member, and you're getting more value essentially by doing that. I know I'm just like saying a whole bunch of words right now, so is that resonating with anybody here?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yes.
So what about, I heard about using your NFT as sort of a receipt, or at least a proof of transaction.
Yeah. So, like in the example I gave with the paintings or the clothes, right? If you buy an article of clothing, the NFT essentially serves as your receipt of purchase, right? And that's how Elise can verify that you've invested in her brand or community or business by you holding that NFT. Because it's on the blockchain, nobody can take that away from you unless you are unsafe with your wallet. Who in here has invested in crypto or has a crypto wallet? Raise your hand. Okay, that's actually a significant amount of people. Raise your hand if you don't. Okay, so in the Web 2 world, right, you go on the Facebook or MySpace or any of these websites, and you have to set up a different account for each place, right? In the Web 3 world, you set up a wallet, and you use that wallet to sign in to all of these different sites. So if I buy some of Elise's clothes, or I buy some of Shai's art, or a ticket to her show, right, and I'm getting their NFTs or their whatever, I can go to a different site and say, hey, I got like the tickets to the Shy Hot show. I can go to any marketplace and sell that. Basically, all your assets go with you, and that's kind of like what all of this ownership stuff means, basically. But yeah, any questions thus far, and then we're going to get into something slightly outside of this crypto space and more so into the general future of all of these technologies. But I just want to make sure everybody's tracking where I'm at thus far before we get too crazy. Raise your hand if you got any questions. Okay, no questions. All right, so this was not originally part of this conversation, but I figure it might as well be since I had a conversation over there and it seemed to resonate with some people. Who understands stuff like the metaverse, or maybe where we're going with all of that and why you should care about it and what impact it has on your life?
So slightly.
What would you say is your understanding?
I understand that you can, like, my understanding from working at the gallery over there is that you can own your own art, or you can visit a digital art gallery in the metaverse.
Right.
You can exist in the metaverse almost the same way you exist in reality, but...
So when you hear the word metaverse, like, what do you perceive? How are you interacting with the metaverse?
What I actually picture is SimCity, because I'm 30 years old.
So in a virtual world?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I picture is we can all like access the metaverse and live in some sort of a virtual world where we can like even go to online shows or like just go to an art gallery and we can all meet up there, but we're like in 5 different stages.
Right.
You know, like that's what it looks like to me. So I don't know. It's like
when I think of the metaverse, I think of that Black Mirror episode when the girl's like in the coma.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Maybe.
I don't know if you've seen it.
Maybe, yeah, no,
okay.
I'm a big Black Mirror person.
Got it.
All right. So a lot of people, when they think of the metaverse, they kind of think about it like this virtual world that we can exist in, and people put on a VR headset. Which, by the way, we've had like the VR going all night as a preface to this conversation. But in 10 to 20 years time frame, that's not really what the metaverse looks like. Okay. The metaverse more so looks like this merger between the physical world and the virtual world. And if that you really have a hard time understanding that. So Microsoft has a product called the HoloLens. And when you put the HoloLens on, you can see a hologram or a 3D object in the world. And if somebody else has the HoloLens on, they can also see that 3D object. So imagine you go to your house and instead of owning a TV, you just pull up a virtual screen on your wall and watch TV. When you go to an art show, instead of having the physical art there, imagine everybody's able to see this 3D sculpture that's in the room. Like imagine if all of the different art pieces at this beautiful studio that Mike Stastny's put together was all virtual, right? And imagine everybody being able to see that, right? Now take it outside of the standpoint of glasses, and imagine it goes to contact lenses, which is what Sony's put the patent out for. Right, so everybody wears contact lenses. Now this is really gonna blow your mind. Imagine it goes beyond contact lenses and goes into computer chips that are directly implanted in your brain. If that sounds crazy, who's everybody's favorite spacefaring electric car company owner?
Richard Branson.
Elon Musk. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Elon Musk. So Elon Musk has a company called Neuralink where he's building basically computer systems that plug into your brain initially to help people with degenerative brain diseases. But ultimately, as we can all figure out, if we watched any type of sci-fi movie like The Matrix or Terminator or like anything that's come out in the past 2 years that is trying to give hints as to what's going on, you're not even going to need necessarily a visual device. You'll have a system that can send the electric signals to your brain and your entire nervous system so that you can see, sense, smell, perceive any experience, whether it be real or simulated. And so the virtual worlds that we're building today can be overlaid on top of the physical world that we see today. Yes?
So about the Neuralink, so how exactly is he fitting the Neuralinks in our brain? Is it like a headset or like
No, it's a slight surgery and it's done by like a robot. And it literally, it shoots this little thing into your brain and then expands like little octopus legs and then taps into your nervous. It sounds really scary because it is. It's absolutely insane.
I'll be part of the second wave, right? Second wave. After the first trials go through, I'll go.
So is this similar
Alright.
Yes. Who has seen like Ghost in the Shell? Yes. All right, so
I remember it's called altered carbon.
yes, that.
Yes, that shit was dope as fuck.
So to kind of connect this all back together, the future of our species, right? Imagine we all have individual bodies, okay? But the thing that essentially has driven the species forward is the information that we hold in our brains. And that information is passed down through books, it's passed down through our education system, it's passed down through our families. We're passing down the light or information across generation to generation to generation. So with all of these computer systems and AI systems, we're essentially building ways for us to upload that information into something that's outside of our bodies. Okay, so imagine if like, I don't know, something happened like Ukraine invaded or Russia invaded Ukraine and then it ends up creating a whole World War III scenario and then a whole bunch of places get nuked and then a few humans survive. You know, just saying. We have all of that, ideally, as much information that is on the internet is backed up to the cloud, to satellites in space, which we could eventually re-download to our brains, if that makes any sense. So the future of our species is less like our bodies and more about the information and how we're able to control and manipulate and utilize that information, right? This is gonna sound crazy. So once we get to that point, like with Altered Carbon, like he's talking about, which is a great show on Netflix, imagine being able to upload your consciousness, okay? Or like, say you want to visit Mars. Your human body is like a super fragile thing, right? It's probably gonna like die when it goes to space because it's, you know, evolved and designed to be built on Earth. That's why we have robots on Mars. Imagine you're able to stream your consciousness to a robot.
So I watched a video the other day, and Neil deGrasse Tyson said that the first person to never die is already living. And is that kind of based on what you're talking about?
The first person to ever die is what?
The first person to never die is already living.
Sure.
And is that kind of what he's like referring to?
Maybe.
With like downloaded consciousness?
Probably.
Okay.
Likely.
Got it.
With it? Here's what's really gonna trip you out. Oh, so everybody may be freaking out about the Neuralink, right? Like it's a computer chip into your brain. Who in here has a cell phone? Raise your hand. A smartphone. All right. So who in here like turns their smartphone off, or just who in here has their smartphone off of them for less than, let's say, 4 hours a day, other than when you're sleeping?
What?
So you always have your smartphone on you, right?
Okay.
So you're a rare case. Yeah. But most people always have their smartphone on them, right? So you have a device currently that's constantly downloading and uploading information from the standpoint of you Googling stuff. Like when you have a question, you ask Google, and that algorithm that Google has designed feeds you the information that you're looking for, or you think you're looking for. And you post on social media, or you go anywhere because your geolocation is tagged, and that information is uploaded. So if the Neuralink sounds crazy, you already have the prototype to the Neuralink on you at all times. The only difference between the Neuralink and your smartphone is the speed at which you can upload and download information, right? And if it's, so you may be like, I'm not gonna get the Neuralink, that sounds crazy. But just as convenient as it is to have a smartphone, and how kind of like not up to speed you are if you don't have a smartphone, it's gonna be the same thing with the Neuralink. So it's gonna be a choice whether or not you get it or get left behind. This is not me advocating for it. This is me trying to explain, like, this is what the future of our species looks like. And you need to be abreast of these things, because otherwise, well, you may get left behind, right? And then your like whole genetic mimetic line that has managed to miraculously survive and evolve for 13 billion years, right? Which is why everybody's here today, because you're the result of something that's managed to survive for 13 billion years. It's going to be ultimately up to you whether or not you want to continue that thing surviving into the future of the living body of the species, or let it like die and become part of the memory of the species. Sounds crazy, but ultimately, yeah. Any questions?
So dark.
So this is like for people who scared to die.
Sure.
Yeah, what's up? But no, so this is like astral projection, but like, cause I can't, like I'm very spiritual, so I can like, meditate, go to another realm and shit, all that, all about you. But like for people who can't, obtain that, like, because I've been to different places and shit, meditation.
Right.
But people who can't obtain that gift, they can actually now use it with AI by actually just transferring their content. It's like sleeves, like on Arts and Carbon, like little sleeve on the back of there, and they can go to any point that they want. You know what I'm saying? Like, just watch it.
So to answer your question that you had just asked, sorry, I lost my point. So the information that's being fed to you, right, through your social media feeds or through Google or whatever information stream that you download, who decides how that information is filtered to you? So what? The apps. And what are the apps using? And what are the algorithms using? Say again? Right, and it improves itself via machine learning system, right? So if the information that you have inside of your head that gets fed to you through these social media algorithms are already controlled by AI, how do you know that you and your brain, because your body's essentially a machine, is not already AI that is continuously improving itself as long as you are connected to the system? Because you get better and better information, which affects your decisions, it affects your emotions, it affects how you view the world and what you do. So how do you know that the AI is not already building itself through you? Can you survive without a body? The answer, I think is yes, as long as you figure out how to encode the information that's in your head into the internet or whatever digital formats that we have to be able to hold information to continue into the future. How many of us have met Napoleon?
Like Bonaparte?
Yeah.
Zero.
Right.
I went to his grave.
How many of
like,
us have
one
met
day.
King Tut? Why do we know about these people? And right, so what is history?
Programming to an extent.
Right, it's a technology to encode information to survive through multiple iterations of human bodies across time. But yeah,
For days.
yeah. So any questions? Does everybody understand how this connects to sustainable living?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Does
I think
everybody?
people think that sustainable living is like agriculture based or like I don't know, like health based or like earth based, But this is like virtual sustainable living. So it's like
exactly.
Virtual sustainable living.
I got you.
Ooh.
That sounds like a dystopian company.
Virtual
Well,
sustainable
I just think
living.
that the original people are going to associate it with like agriculture, But this is virtual. Like you're still talking about sustainable living because it's organic.
Do you understand what I was saying about the crypto stuff and the ownership part?
Yes, but
So-
I have prior knowledge, so
Okay.
yeah.
But you
Who-
do music.
I do music.
Who doesn't understand that part?
You do music.
Who in here has a social media account?
Me.
Who has social media followers?
I mean,
Okay. The future social media is Web 2. Your follower count's Web 2. However many people purchase your coins or your NFT, which is a direct metric of who has ownership and investment into you, just like social media was in the Web 2 world, that's the currency of Web 3. That's the currency of tomorrow. So if you don't have an NFT project or your own cryptocurrency, if you have a brand or a business, you're probably going to get left behind, because ultimately what people are going to want is to feel connected to something, and the easiest way to feel connected to something is through ownership, and knowing that the more time and energy you invest into a brand, your brand grows in time. If you're an artist, right, people can buy your albums or come to your shows, but they don't really get anything other than the experience. If people buy your album or come to your show and get some of your own cryptocurrency or your NFT, and that grows in value over time as your brand grows in value, what are they incentivized to do? Grow your brand.
Right.
That's your street team. Literally, it's like if you buy a stock for a company, then you just go shield the company, right? Because you want more people to invest in it. Except now it's not just companies, you're investing in yourself, in your own community. So literally, instead of just the US dollar or all these different fiat currencies, everybody will have their own currency around them in the future. And people will just be trading currency. What does it sound like? That we've done for like a long time before we invented fiat currency.
Bartering. Trading.
Right. Yeah, that sums it up. I know that was a lot, but any questions, comments, concerns, derogatory remarks?
I have a peculiar question that I don't exactly know how to phrase.
Sure.
Because Web 2.0, it seems like the bloodline of the currency is popularity,
Yes.
right? But
Information, but yes.
well, so like popularity breeds popularity, so if it's popular, inherently seems to have value. We all know that something that's popular can be very evil. How do you think money and turning things from like Bitcoin into that world works? Because it's a different type of incentive. Like, do you think people will hurt people to acquire Bitcoin? Is maybe the oversimplified version of the question.
I think the answer, yeah, they already are. They already are.
Correct.
But people have also been hurting people to get cash or gold or any other currency that has existed over time. So the same problems that generally exist with currency are probably going to continue to exist, but the problems that existed as far as access to you building things that can enable ownership into your community and growing generational wealth across a community or ownership across a community, that is what crypto enables that wasn't possible before, ultimately. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Really how like you guys on the dark web like back in like 2006 early that's not really how you was able to like buy shit. I was like one of my motherfucking I said that's not
Oh yeah, we actually had this conversation already. Where like there's always going to be some sort of black market or something that is covert in some way. How would the blockchain? How can people navigate around? I'm not saying how can you be a criminal, but like, do you think there's a possibility in which people can navigate around that? Because blockchain is a public, you can access anything.
Navigate around what part?
Like, how will this not be hyper regulated in a way in which like there's a world without like criminals?
How can you regulate or not regulate?
Like, how can this not be under some sort of government or societal regulation?
Oh, like
I see that happen.
what's stopping the government from coming in and controlling it? Okay, because it's across networks. So this is when you hear the word decentralized, when it comes to like the blockchain and crypto. But so the ledger example I gave you earlier with your bank owns that ledger. Okay, your bank can see that ledger. Your bank controls that ledger. They can manipulate that ledger. All right, when you take out $100,000 loan from the bank, where does that money go? It's in the bank.
Right.
No money's been moved. Okay, the bank can do whatever it wants to do. With crypto, it's Lakon, okay, it's Elise, it's Shy. We all have computers that are connected to the blockchain that are verifying this ledger. So, easy example, say we took that notebook piece of paper with Sarah selling 10 apples, Johnny doing whatever, and we passed it out to like 10 people. 8 people come back and say, yeah, we all have the same thing. 2 people are like, nah, bro, I got $1 million. Who's lying? The 2 people. So how the blockchain works is off of consensus, right? And the more people that are connected to the blockchain, the more secure and powerful it becomes. So it's not, if everybody that were powering the blockchain was in the US, then the US could shut it down. But because it's all over the globe, you can't shut every single node down. It will cost the government more money to do that than it would to just deal with whatever they're dealing with currently when it comes to crypto. Right. Now, this also has, it has advantages and disadvantages. So if you guys are tracking like the current Russia-Ukraine situation, so like Ukraine is accepting all of its donations to its military in crypto and NFTs, right? Russia doesn't really care about the sanctions because Russia moved most of its holdings into Bitcoin, which can't be regulated by the US government, right? So if you have maybe good actors and nefarious actors and they move their stuff to a deregulated thing, just like a criminal, and it can't be regulated, you can see where that can be, come into problems. But the government's going to figure it out across the board, as they always do when it comes to money. And then people just may disappear or die if they're nefarious actors. Y'all know how that works. Yeah. Everybody who's American, that's how we roll. Anyways, does that wrap it up?